All right, how's everybody doing? Let's start recording. Imhotep, how's everybody doing today? Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. All right, so we're on. How's everybody doing today? Hotep, hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer. It is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2019, and we are live. So I wanted to do this broadcast. I was trying to broadcast on my Facebook page, but Zoom is acting up. I don't know what's going on with that. Have to figure that out. But I wanted to deal with this breaking news story, okay? And I watched it was billed as a press conference, but really wasn't a press conference that Donald Trump just did, denouncing the Mueller investigation and saying that he stormed out of a meeting with Nancy Pelosi, okay, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, and he's saying if the investigations don't stop, he won't be able to work with the Democrats to get anything passed. And this is once again another example, and one of the most blatant examples, why Donald Trump needs to be impeached. Okay. So we're going to talk about this today. I'm going to break down what happened, and part of this was precipitated by the meeting that Nancy Pelosi had with Democrats before about 9 a.m. this morning, before she met with Trump, and she did a brief press conference after that meeting. And this meeting was dealing with the growing calls from Democrats in the House of Representatives to start the impeachment process of Donald Trump. Okay, and Nancy Pelosi talked about how she accused Trump of engaging in a cover-up. This was at the press conference that took place before the brief meeting with Donald Trump. Okay. So everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. How's everybody doing? Christo, Felicia, Yvette, Renee, Trina, Miss Leo, Bonita. There's a few people. There's only women watching, okay? It's all right with me, but I mean, share this broadcast. Share this broadcast on your Facebook page. All right. Invite your friends to tune in also. And I'm sharing this now also, okay? All right, I want to jump into this, all right? And then also African-American business owners, you can post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, okay? All right, and let me share this quickly on Facebook. But this is, I'm going to talk some about the Mueller report. This is another example of why Trump needs to be impeached. And he just went out and blatantly lied. If you follow me on Facebook, you saw the post that I was doing on Facebook during the right after his little press conference. Okay. And he only took 2 questions. He was asked by one of the reporters from MSNBC, he was asked, have you actually read the Mueller report? Okay, he just turned his back and walked away. All right, so let's jump into this, all right? So I want to start with the article from the Washington Post. Let's look at what happened. It always happens. I start broadcasting and people call me, okay? Let's look at the article from the Washington Post. Trump abruptly ends infrastructure meeting with Democrats after Pelosi says he is, quote, engaged in a cover-up, end quote, engaged in the cover-up. And the meeting that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer were having with Donald Trump this morning was dealing with infrastructure, okay? And about 3 weeks ago, they agreed to a $2 trillion infrastructure deal, okay? And this was dealing more with the details, okay? Chuck Schumer said he had about a 35-page plan dealing with infrastructure. They only met with Trump for about 3 minutes, okay? So let's look at what happened. All right, So Donald Trump abruptly ended a meeting with Democratic leaders on Wednesday, saying he was unable to work with them on legislation following comments by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat from California, that he was, quote, engaged in a cover-up, end quote. Now, Donald Trump made an unscheduled appearance in the Rose Garden shortly afterward, and in a meandering 10-minute address said he had left the meeting with Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat from New York, at which they were supposed to talk about working together on a $2 trillion infrastructure plan. Trump said, quote, instead of walking in happily to a meeting, I walk in to look at people who said I was doing a cover-up, end quote. Okay. Trump said, adding that he can't work on infrastructure, quote, under these circumstances, end quote. Okay. Now, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer held a press conference after Trump held his little meandering 10-minute press conference. Okay. And Chuck Schumer said that, well, when we met 3 weeks ago and agreed to a $2 trillion infrastructure plan, Trump was under investigation then. Trump is saying now, he's saying that he can't work with Democrats to get anything passed on behalf of the American people until the investigations end. This is what he's saying. While the investigations are going, he can't meet with them to get anything done. Okay, that is an obstructionist, because it is the role, based upon the Article 1 powers of the U.S. Constitution, it is the responsibility of Congress to do oversight and do investigations when they see blatant obstruction of justice, when they see malfeasance. They follow the trail. That's their job. They're supposed to do that. Okay, so the article from the Washington Post goes on to say Nancy Pelosi made her comments earlier Wednesday morning after a closed-door meeting with House Democrats called to discuss ongoing investigations of Donald Trump and his administration, despite her accusation of a cover-up. Despite her accusation of a cover-up, Nancy Pelosi and all but one of her 5 present committee chairmen with investigative powers tamped down talk of impeachment proceedings during the meeting. Okay, so it was announced that Nancy Pelosi was going to have a meeting at 9 a.m. this morning to deal with the growing calls among the Democrats in the House of Representatives to start impeachment proceedings against Trump. Okay, and what Trump did today is going to cause even more of them to say he's totally out of control. He has to be held accountable. Okay, so now, speaking to reporters shortly after Trump's appearance in the Rose Garden, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer said they were taken aback by Donald Trump's behavior. Quote, to watch what happened in the White House would make your jaw drop, okay, Chuck Schumer said. And we know Donald Trump said he does not do cover-ups. He stood there and just lied about the findings of the Mueller report. We're going to get to that in a minute, because I'm going to go through and deal with some of these lies that he told. Now, Pelosi said Democrats have been prepared to deliver a signature accomplishment to Donald Trump at a time when the nation's road and bridges and airports and other infrastructure are ailing. She said, for some reason, maybe it was lack of confidence on his part, he just took a pass, and it just makes me wonder why he did. In any event, I pray for the president of the United States, and I pray for the United States of America. Yeah, I pray that he resigns. Okay, that's what I pray for. Now, Trump, so the argument Nancy Pelosi has been making is that, and just a few days ago, she made this argument. She said that the Democrats have to keep working on behalf of the American people, getting bills passed in the House of Representatives, having the proper hearings when it deals with making drugs affordable, when it deals with you just saw the I forgot which committee it was. Representative Katie Porter's on the committee. You just saw what happened with Dr. Ben Carson yesterday in the House committee, and I'll pull this up, try to see which one it is. And this is all dealing with oversight of HUD, housing and urban development. So there have been a number of hearings that Democrats have been having in the House of Representatives because they are in control of the House. It was the House Finance. I think it was the House Finance Committee. No, it wasn't House Finance Committee. I was watching Steve Mnuchin because Representative Maxine Waters chairs the House Finance Committee. I was watching that today, and she was tearing into Steve Mnuchin. Okay, but I'll find out which one it is. So in the House of Representatives, they're doing their job. Okay, Democrats are doing their job. What happens is they're not in control of the U.S. Senate. So Mitch McConnell has been blocking Mitch McConnell has been blocking bills from coming to the Senate floor and being voted on, being debated in the Senate, or they're being voted down in the Senate because Democrats don't control the U.S. Senate. Therefore, if they die in the Senate, they can't make it to Trump's desk to be signed into law if he was going to sign them into law in the first place. This is an example of how elections have consequences. This is an example of how elections have consequences. It was the Financial Services Committee. Yeah, the House. Okay, I had it correct. It was the House Financial Services Committee that Ben Carson testified before on Tuesday, May 21st. Okay, and so people are talking about, he didn't know what REO is, which is a real estate term dealing with HUD, and he said Oreo, and then there was another term, and he said Amway, and there's Amway. Okay, he's an idiot. He has no business being in charge of HUD. Okay, Ben Carson is totally unqualified to be in charge of HUD. Okay, just a quick side note. Okay, and I'm gonna get back to this. The reason why I'm gonna post this article here from Vox.com that talks about what happened when Dr. Ben Carson testified in front of the House Finance Committee. Okay, the reason why Donald Trump put Dr. Ben Carson, and I hate to call him doctor because he gives doctors a bad name. The reason why Trump put Ben Carson in charge of HUD, and he knew that Ben Carson was totally unqualified to be the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, is because Donald Trump hates HUD, because Donald Trump and his father back in 1973 were sued by Richard Nixon's Department of Justice for violating the Fair Housing Act of 1968. And we know that HUD operates based upon the Fair Housing Act. HUD regulates all this, okay? Donald Trump and his father were discriminating against African Americans and Hispanics getting apartments in their apartment buildings in Manhattan. So they were sued by Richard Nixon's Department of Justice. They settled out of court. They were sued again 3 years after that because they kept doing it. So Trump has a hatred of HUD. He's basically put Ben Carson there to destroy HUD. Okay, and then when it blows up, he may just blame the black guy if Ben Carson is still there, if Ben Carson doesn't leave. Okay, but so we have to understand that you have to go back. New York Times had an article dealing with Trump and that first lawsuit. Okay, and I'll see if I can pull it up. But New York Times had an article from a couple of years ago dealing with this, and it breaks this down. It was dealing with the discrimination lawsuit. Okay. And let me see if I can pull this up quickly. If not, I'll post the links in the thread of the broadcast. Okay, when we're done, in the description of the broadcast. Yeah, I have to pull that one up. I can't find it right now. All right, let's continue here. And then also, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show. paypal.me/the AHN show. Okay, that helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, broadcast our Sunday night show, pay the bills, etc. All right, and then also visit our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, africanhistorynetwork.com. okay, because all my DVD lectures are there, etc. Okay, let me post this here. All right, how's everybody doing today? All right, let's continue. Okay, we got Jermaine, Mario, Distribution Solutions, Bonita, John Ray, Renee. Okay, share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Let your friends know to tune in also. All right, so let's go back to the article from the Washington Post. Okay, so Trump was visibly angry when he arrived in the cabinet room about 15 minutes late to meet with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. So this was after, so this was the meeting that they had to discuss infrastructure. The meeting was right after Nancy Pelosi met with House Democrats, okay, to discuss, to tamp down their increasing conviction and speaking out more openly about impeachment. They had a meeting about that. Then she did a press conference and said Trump is engaged in the cover-up. Okay. Then she met with Trump. All right, so Trump was visibly angry when he arrived in the cabinet room about 15 minutes late to meet with Pelosi and Schumer, according to people familiar with what transpired. Donald Trump did not shake hands or sit down, and after accusing Nancy Pelosi of saying something quote unquote terrible, he headed out without allowing time for a response. Okay, now this is the same guy who's called women pigs. This is the same guy who's talked about Stormy Daniels. This is the same guy who talked about Mika Brzezinski on Morning Joe about her facelift. This is the same guy who talked about, what was her name, on Fox News, went to NBC News and stayed at NBC for a couple of years, and they had to, the white woman, I forgot her name. But he talked about her having blood coming from her nose, coming from whatever. This is a guy who said some very horrible things. This is the same guy who was one of the leading birthers, okay, and said that President Obama wasn't born in this country. This is the same guy who called people coming from African nations, Haiti and El Salvador, he referred to those nations as S-hole countries. This is the same guy who referred to Mexicans coming across the southern border as rapists and murderers, but he's quiet when white domestic terrorists kill African Americans. He's quiet when, he's largely quiet when you have white supremacists who kill African Americans. Okay, so for him to blow up and say Nancy Pelosi said something terrible, all we have to do is look at his track record. And at the same time, you look at the reporting from the Washington Post, he's told over 10,000 false and misleading statements, okay, in the first about 800 days of his presidency as well. So, you know, this is another case of Trump being a bully. And a lot of times bullies can dish it out, but they can't take it. A lot of times bullies can dish it out, they can attack people, but when the tables are turned, they can't handle it. All right. And I have the article here because I'll give you the exact name of it. This deals with Trump telling 10,000 false and misleading statements. And this comes from the Washington Post. And the Washington Post, they have it categorized also. They have it documented, categorized. You can research it. All right. So I'll find that also. Thought I just saw that article. This is some stuff here on the Mueller Report that I'm going to get into. And then we see the reporting from the NBC News. Oh, here it is. Yeah, right here. Then we see the report from NBC News about that Richard Engel did, dealing with the Russians trying to train African Americans to what was this? Sow discord. What was that article? Russian documents reveal desire to sow racial discord and violence in the U.S. This was a story. This was reported by Richard Engel for NBC News on May 21st. Russians who were linked to interference in the 2016 U.S. election discussed ambitious plans to stoke unrest and even violence inside the U.S. as recently as 2018, according to documents reviewed by NBC News. Okay, the documents, which were communications between associates of a Kremlin-linked oligarch indicted by Special Counsel Robert Mueller for previous influence operations against the U.S., laid out a new plot to manipulate and radicalize African Americans. The plans show that this Russian oligarch, Prigozhin, Prigozhin, Zhin, Prigozhin. The plans show that Prigozhin's circle has sought to exploit racial tensions well beyond Russia's social media and misinformation efforts tied to the 2016 election. Go watch the broadcast I did a few days ago dealing with the National Urban League State of Black America Report 2019, which deals with how the Russian intervention in the 2016 election, and it deals with how the Russians were targeting African Americans. Targeting African Americans for voter suppression. Okay, so Washington Post, April 29th, 2019. President Trump has made more than 10,000 false and misleading claims. President Trump has made more than 10,000 false and misleading claims, all right? And we'll post that link in the description of this broadcast also. All right, so let's go back to the article from Washington Post, all right? Okay, so, all right, so Trump was visibly angry when he arrived in the cabinet room about 15 minutes late to meet with Pelosi and Schumer, according to people familiar with what transpired. Trump did not shake hands or sit down, and after accusing Pelosi of saying something terrible, he headed out without allowing time for a response. Senator Debbie Stabenow, from my senator from Michigan, Democrat from Michigan, who was there to take part in the meeting, said that after directing his anger toward Nancy Pelosi, Trump, quote, said it was over, that he wasn't going to do infrastructure or anything else until investigations were over, end quote. So here you have a sitting president being once again an obstructionist. Now, if you've been reading the Mueller report, we'll post a link here so you can read the full redacted Mueller report. NBCnews.com has it. If you've been reading the Mueller report, you know that Mueller laid out 10 possible instances of obstruction of justice. Okay, and this is an article from thinkprogress.org. You've heard me reference before. We'll give you this link also. Mueller detailed 10 times Trump acted to derail the Russia investigation and protect themselves. Now, once again, just like Donald Trump caused the 35-day government shutdown in December and January, December 2018 into January 2019, and held citizens hostage because he was trying to basically extort billions of dollars from Congress to build his fake wall after he lied and said Russia was supposed to pay for the wall. And then we just see the reporting from that came out yesterday that talks about how a little more than a mile of the wall has been built, okay, and it cost a little more than $1 billion for a little more than 1 mile, okay? Well, I'll get you that, we'll pull up that article also. Okay, so here you have, he's just a total con man. And this is what I warned people about in 2016, okay? The only people that think that Trump was a good businessman are poor people and people who don't understand business, that's it. Because people who understand business, they knew he was a fraud. They knew he was a con. He has been for a long time. Okay, and so all this stuff is coming out. The truth is coming out. The chickens are coming back home to roost, and people are seeing that Trump is a con. And what really positioned him as a successful businessman was a reality TV show called The Apprentice that he wasn't even the creator of and didn't even own. He wasn't even the one who came up with the phrase "you're fired." So he's being exposed as a fraud. This is why African Americans have to make sure we mobilize and come out in 2016 and make sure he does not get reelected. All right, let me see something here. I'll try to pull up that other article also dealing with the wall. I know MSNBC reported on that yesterday. Okay, Janet, Terrence, how you doing, Janet? For all these so-called Russian interference, how is he still president? Impeachment hearings haven't happened. Okay, and according to the memo from the Office of Legal Counsel, a sitting president cannot be indicted. So Mueller was leaving it up to Congress to handle it through the impeachment process. Okay. Now there's nothing in the U.S. Constitution saying the sitting president cannot be indicted, and it has not been adjudicated. It has not gone to court. Has not been adjudicated. It's not going to the Supreme Court. So Mueller was following the Office of Legal Counsel memo. Okay, and this is one of the things laid out in the Mueller report as well. Also, we have the article. We have the petition from now over 900 former federal prosecutors saying that if Donald Trump were not president, he would be indicted on multiple felony charges for obstruction of justice. Okay, I've talked about this before, so we'll post a link here as well. This is from medium.com. You have now it's over 900 former federal prosecutors who signed this petition saying that if Donald Trump were not president, he would be indicted on multiple felony charges of obstruction of justice. He is well, we know he was referred to as individual one. He's an unindicted co-conspirator. Okay. All right, but this is an example of how elections have consequences. All right, now, in the Rose Garden, we go back to the article from the Washington Post. In the Rose Garden, Donald Trump delivered his remarks from a podium with a sign reading, "No collusion, no obstruction." No collusion, no obstruction. And that displayed statistics, and that sign displayed statistics about the Mueller report, the Mueller investigation, such as the number of subpoenas issued and witnesses called. Okay. White House aides also distributed flyers with the statistics on them. Now, as reported on MSNBC after his little press conference, the White House got that. They got those statistics from ABC News website, which is abcnews.go.com. Those graphics, the statistics they got from ABC News website. But MSNBC reported that there was another graphic from ABC News that talks about all the indictments, all the people who were indicted and convicted. The White House did not give that information out. Trump did not talk about that, right? So I find that very interesting. Okay, so if we look at this from AM Joanne Reed, right? We talked about this before. Okay, AM Joanne Reed. I'm gonna pull this up. How's everybody doing? Okay, I'm gonna pull this up right here, and we've got this for you. Okay. And what I'm going to do is because I'm using Zoom, and I paid the Zoom bill. Shit, man, these bills killing me. I'm going to show you this. Okay. So let's pull this up here. All right, but this talks about special counsel investigations. Now, this is from a segment of AM Joanne Reed. I watch AM Joy every weekend. I DVR it automatically. So when I'm out of town, things like that, I come back, I watch it. Also, I listen to the podcast. Okay. I listen to it live on TuneIn. Okay. So for those, you can listen to MSNBC for free on tunein.com. Go to tunein.com on the internet or TuneIn. Download the TuneIn app. Okay. Download the TuneIn app. And right here, TUNE. download the TuneIn app to your smartphone. It allows you, see, I got MSNBC right there, WERE, listen to Reverend Al Sharpton, 105.9, KISS FM. I listen to Tom Joyner in the morning. You can listen to radio stations across the country and around the world for free, including MSNBC, which is not radio, but cable. You can listen to MSNBC live for free. You can listen to CNN live for free. You can listen to, I don't know why you want to do it, but you can listen to Fox News. Here's AM Joy, because if you miss Joanne Reed, you can just search for AM Joy on TuneIn, and you can go back and listen to the show, okay? And they have some of the other shows podcasted as well, all right? So, you know, when I travel, you know, I'm listening to MSNBC. I'm staying up on what's going on right from my phone, okay? And if you don't have cable, and I know a lot of people are cutting the cable, totally understand that, because I'm trying to figure out, you know, I'm paying Comcast $200 a month for high-speed internet and cable, and I watch 5, 6 channels, man. I'm trying to figure out how to get this bill down. But if you don't have cable, you can listen to all that through your phone, through your smartphone for free, okay? That's the TuneIn app. How many people know about the TuneIn app? Okay, TuneIn app, okay, or tunein.com on the internet, okay? Benita said you really break things down so people can understand the government. Okay, thanks, Benita. Okay, you know, I've been studying for 27 years, right? So I had to learn how to do presentations, learn how to break this stuff down, okay? And the most important thing is not to make things complicated, so you can try to make yourself look like, you know, make yourself look so intelligent. You have to be able to take things that are complicated and break it down on a basic level so anybody can understand it. Okay, so let me try to pull this graphic up here. Just give me a minute here. Okay, but this segment from AM Joy, Mueller report could be released to public eventually. Now this is before the Mueller report came out, of course. This is from March 23rd, 2019, okay, and from AM Joy. So you can go to msnbc.com. For those that may not know, you can go to msnbc.com. You can click on listen. You can listen for free right there on their website, but also most of the segments from the different shows, you can go back and watch on their website also. All right, let's try to pull this up here. Okay, so we'll work on that. And is that coming up? It's not coming up. I'll just continue. Oh yeah, here we go. All right, I want to show you this here, because see, this is what they did not hand out. Okay, this is what they did not hand out at this little press conference Trump had today. They didn't talk about the people who were indicted. They didn't talk about the convictions. And then Trump said that the investigation cost $35 million. Well, I find that very interesting. He talked about that because the investigation, even though the purpose of the investigation is not to make money, the investigation actually made money. The reason why is because of what was recovered from Paul Manafort, okay, his assets. So it was something like $45 million in assets recovered from Paul Manafort. So it was actually profitable, but Trump didn't talk about that, okay? All right, so this is coming up here. All right, let's look at this here. There we go. Let's turn on the screen share. There we go. All right, so let's look at this. So this was a graphic from AM Joy, Joanne Reed, March 23rd, 2019. And once again, the name of that segment, and we'll post the link here on the thread, Mueller report could be released to public eventually. So let's look at this, because this is something Trump didn't want to talk about. All right. Now you've had, and I made notes on the back, right? Okay, so by the numbers, special counsel, you've had 34 people charged plus 3 companies. You had 7 guilty pleas, 1 convicted by trial, who was Paul Manafort, who's in prison right now. 4 jailed or incarcerated, 5 sentenced. Okay, so if you go back and watch the little press conference Trump had today, he talked about no collusion, no obstruction, no nothing, totally exonerated. He didn't tell you that his former campaign chairman is in prison right now. He didn't tell you that his former attorney of 10 years, Michael Cohen, is in prison right now. Even though Michael Cohen was not part of his campaign, he was still working for him. Michael Cohen was directed by Trump to pay Stormy Daniels. He was operating on behalf of Trump to pay Stormy Daniels to keep her quiet about an affair that she had with Trump some years prior. And this was about 2 months before the election. That's a campaign finance law violation, which is a felony. So let's look at this. Paul Manafort, convicted and pleaded guilty. Also pleaded guilty, Michael Cohen. Michael Flynn pleaded guilty, his Trump's former national security advisor, who was part of his administration. Trump didn't mention him, pleaded guilty. George Papadopoulos, who was a advisor during the campaign, pleaded guilty. Rick Gates, who was a associate of Paul Manafort, pleaded guilty. Alexander Van der Zwaan pleaded guilty. Richard Pinedo pleaded guilty. Konstantin Kilimnik indicted. Konstantin Kilimnik was the Russian oligarch that Paul Manafort owed millions of dollars to. Paul Manafort turns over 75 pages of polling data, 2016 presidential election polling data. He turns over 75 pages to Konstantin Kilimnik. They talk about this in the Mueller report. Okay, and they were talking about polling in key battleground states: Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Why is Trump's campaign chairman meeting with a Russian oligarch, turning over 75 pages of polling data, talking about key battleground states? Trump won Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania by 78,000 votes. We know there was rampant voter suppression taking place in those states, 1. 2, we know that Russians targeted African Americans as part of their disinformation campaign to sow discord, to destabilize the 2016 election, to sow a lack of confidence in the 2016 election, but also to inflame racial fears and racial tension in this country as well. Now, Paul Manafort was working for the Trump campaign for free. He volunteered to work for free. Why? Roger Stone indicted, okay? Indicted 13 Russian nationals, indicted 12 Russian military officers. So when Trump says no collusion, no obstruction, no nothing, that's a lie. Number 2, I've talked about this before. If you watch my broadcast, page 2 of volume 1 of the Mueller report, and here's my copy of the Mueller report, ordered from the Washington Post. This is $10. I'm gonna post a link for you so you can read it for free. Okay, I got this from Amazon. This came out April 30th. The Mueller report, presented with related materials by the Washington Post. Okay, if we look at page 2 of volume 1, and let me see here. Let me give you the link here from NBC News. You can read this for free. It's a PDF. We'll pull that up. If you actually read this, Mueller specifically stated on page 2 of volume 1 that they did not, I repeat, they did not investigate collusion. Okay, let's look at this quickly here. Okay, page 2 of volume 1. Because volume 1 deals with the Russian intervention, and volume 2 deals with obstruction of justice. Okay, And let me give you this link here also. This is to the full Mueller report, NBCnews.com. Was the redacted Mueller report? It's a PDF, 448 pages. Okay, so Mueller said on page 2, in evaluating whether evidence about collective action of multiple individuals constituted a crime, we applied the framework of conspiracy law, not the concept of collusion. We applied the framework of conspiracy law, not the concept of collusion, meaning that they did not investigate collusion, okay? In so doing, the office recognized that the word, quote unquote, collude was used in communication with the acting attorney general, confirming certain aspects of the investigation scope, and that the term has frequently been invoked in public reporting about the investigation. But collusion is not a specific offense or theory of liability found in the United States Code, nor is it a term of art in federal criminal law. So what he's saying is collusion is not a legal term. Mueller is telling you at the beginning, they did not investigate collusion because collusion is not a legal term. Collusion is not found in the United States Code. So how can Trump claim exoneration and no collusion when Mueller is specifically saying they did not investigate collusion? Today, if you go watch the pictures, and we'll put the links to the articles here that I'm citing. You watch the picture of Trump on the front of the podium. They had the graphic with the Mueller report by the numbers, and then on the side it said no collusion, no obstruction. That's a blatant lie. That's a blatant lie. Mueller goes on to say on page 2 of volume 1, for those reasons, the office's focus in analyzing questions of joint criminal liability was on conspiracy as defined in federal law. Conspiracy as defined in federal law. In connection with that analysis, we address the factual question whether members of the Trump campaign coordinated, a term that appears in the appointment order with Russian election interference activities. Like collusion, coordination does not have a settled definition in federal criminal law. We understood coordination to require an agreement. This is extremely important. We understand coordination to require an agreement, tacit or express, between the Trump campaign and the Russian government on election interference. That requires more than two parties taking actions that were informed by or responsive to the other's actions or interests. Okay, so what Mueller is saying is that for them to prove that there was coordination, they had to prove that there was an agreement, either tacit or express, between Russians and the Trump campaign. Okay, between the Russian government. He specifically says the Russian government and the Trump campaign. He does not say between Russians. He does not say between Russians. He specifically says between the Russian government and the Trump campaign. Okay, therefore, because they could not prove an agreement existed, they could then not prove coordination or conspiracy. It does not mean that there was no agreement. It just means that Mueller's saying they couldn't find one. We understood coordination to require an agreement, tacit or express, between the Trump campaign and the Russian government on election interference. That requires more than the two parties taking actions that were informed by or responsive to the other's actions or interests. We applied the term coordination in that sense when stating in the report that the investigation did not establish that the Trump campaign coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. Okay, Trump is saying no collusion, no coordination. What they're saying is they could not establish that an agreement existed. But they stated that in the Mueller report, they stated that the Trump campaign and Russians openly acted in a mutually beneficial way, but they just couldn't establish an agreement. And he also said that the Trump campaign openly welcomed help from Russia as well. Okay, so Trump is lying. All right, this is why you got to read this. I posted a link here. Trump is lying. He blatantly lied today in the White House Rose Garden. He blatantly lied. Okay, let's continue here, and then let me close that out. African-American business owners, you can post the name of your business here in the thread of the broadcast. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Our current promotion is get 3 months for the price of one. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. All right, let's continue here. Okay, so we'll go back to the article from the Washington Post. So in the Rose Garden today, Trump delivered his remarks from a podium with a sign reading, "No collusion, no obstruction," blatant lie. And that displayed statistics, and the sign displayed statistics about the Mueller investigation, such as the number of subpoenas issued and witnesses called. White House aides also distributed flyers with the statistics on them. So this was planned. This was planned. They had the stuff already ready to hand out to the press. Now, calling the Mueller investigation, quote, "a one-sided, horrible thing," end quote, Trump lashed out at Democrats, investigators, and the assembled journalists that were there today. Trump said, quote, "This whole thing was a takedown attempt at the president of the United States, and honestly, you ought to be ashamed of yourselves for the way you report it so dishonorably," end quote. What was reported that was dishonest? What was it? Now we can tell. We can look at what Trump has said that's been dishonest, because he's made over 10,000 false and misleading statements in the first 828 days of his presidency. When you look at this, he did a campaign event on April 27th and told 61 false and misleading statements just in that one event. Then he did a speech for the National Rifle Association in April also. He made 24 false and misleading claims. He did an interview, a 19-minute interview with radio host Mark Levin. He made 17 false and misleading claims. He did a 45-minute telephone interview with Sean Hannity on Fox News on April 25th. He made 45 false and misleading claims right there. Okay, so the article from the Washington Post goes on to say, not mentioned by Trump were the indictments against 34 people, including 6 former Trump aides or confidants, as well as 26 Russians, that resulted from Mueller's nearly 2-year probe. Mueller, 675-day probe, 2 years, 2 months, 675 days. This is what I laid out here. This is what I laid out here. Trump didn't talk about any of this. I don't understand that. Now, a growing number of rank and file Democrats have called for the launch of an impeachment inquiry against Trump as frustrations build over the administration's stonewalling of congressional probes. They have to start impeachment inquiries now, period. They have to start, because he's already, there are 29 investigations going on right now, okay? New York Times has an article dealing with this. You have 29 investigations going on right now into the Trump campaign, Trump administration, Trump inauguration, things like this. He stopped providing documentation. He's blocking witnesses. We just saw he blocked former White House counsel Don McGahn from testifying in front of Congress. And Don McGahn is a private citizen as well. So this is clear. This is clear obstruction of justice, on top of the 10 instances of possible obstruction that Mueller laid out in the Mueller report. This is on top of that, okay? let me pull up, let me try to pull up this article here from Washington Post, tracking 29 investigations related to Trump. This was last updated May 20th, 2019. Okay, so this is pretty recent. Tracking 29 investigations related to Trump. So Trump is saying that he's not going to work with Democrats to get anything passed on behalf of the American people until they stop the investigations. Go to hell. It's time to impeach him right now. Okay, I almost quoted Representative Rashida Tlaib from Detroit, but I don't want to do that exact quote. No, it's time to start impeachment hearings right now and start the impeachment inquiry, and at the same time, keep calling witnesses, keep following the investigations that the House committees are doing, keep issuing the subpoenas, getting the documentation, and when you start the impeachment inquiry, your request for people to come testify has more weight behind it, and just follow the process, okay? But he has to be held accountable. Here's why. God forbid if this jackass gets reelected to a second term. If he gets reelected to a second term, it's all over, because he'll be totally unhinged, because he doesn't have to worry about reelection. Right now, he's holding back because he has to worry about reelection. But if he gets reelected to a second term, he don't give a damn about nothing, because he doesn't have to run again. He will be totally unhinged. So the impeachment inquiry has to start. The impeachment process has to start. He has to be held accountable, because if he gets away with this, then there's a slight chance he'll get reelected. God forbid he does. I have to leave this country. But because then, and see what happens is, if he gets reelected and Democrats lose control of the House of Representatives, then they don't have subpoena power. They don't have control of any of these committees to do investigations. They cannot impeach him. It would have to be Republicans who take that up. So this is why, because they have the power now, Democrats have to strike now. They have to hold them accountable. They have to do. They have the power based upon Article 1 for investigation. They have the impeachment power based upon Article 2, Section 4. They have to do their duty. It's their duty to be oversight to a president. It's their duty to hold up a president accountable. Congress is a co-equal branch of government. They are not subjects of the king. They don't work for the president. They are a co-equal branch of government. They have to do their job, period. Okay, so let's continue. Let's go back to the article from Washington Post. Okay, but during Wednesday, so a growing number of rank and file Democrats have called for the launch of an impeachment inquiry against Trump as frustrations build over the administration's stonewalling of congressional probes. But during Wednesday's May 22nd meeting of House Democrats, most of the chairmen who addressed the caucus focused on recent successes in court battles to force the administration to comply with subpoenas, and counseled the more measured course advocated by Nancy Pelosi, according to multiple people in the room. The meeting, quote, reflected where most of the caucus is at, said Representative Dean Phillips, Democrat from Minnesota. He went on to say, have faith in the courts and have faith in process and impeachment only if absolutely necessary. This meeting was before Trump had his press conference and said that he can't work with the Democrats to get anything passed until the investigation stops. That's an obstruction move. The meeting reflected where most of the caucus is at. Okay, now addressing reporters afterward, Nancy Pelosi said Democrats had, quote, a very productive meeting, end quote, and she called for staying the course on investigations. Okay. Now this is before she met with Trump. This is right after the meeting with the Democrats and before she met with Trump. She said, we do believe that it's important to follow the facts. We believe that no one is above the law, including the President of the United States. And we believe the President of the United States is engaged in a cover-up. He is. We believe the President of the United States is engaged in a cover-up. Okay, he is. Now, in remarks to fellow Democrats during the meeting, Nancy Pelosi, according to multiple members, showed no sign of moving away from her approach. Representative Sean Patrick Maloney, Democrat of New York, summarizing Nancy Pelosi's remarks, said, stay the course. Now, during the meeting, House Financial Services Chairwoman Maxine Waters, Democrat from California, Auntie Maxine, was the only one of the chairmen to call for moving forward with impeachment proceedings, a stance consistent with her past advocacy for seeking to remove Trump. I agree with it. I agree with her. Yeah, no, this meeting, keep in mind, now some may have changed their mind after what Trump did in the Rose Garden, because this meeting that Democrats had was before Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer met with Trump to discuss infrastructure, the $2 trillion infrastructure plan. And then right after that meeting, so Trump storms out of that meeting. Right after that meeting, then he has this little press conference in the Rose Garden. So some of them, because of this obstructionist move that he pulled in the Rose Garden, some of them may realize, look, we have to take action. The American people sent us here to be a check on this president. We have to follow our constitutional duty and proceed with the impeachment inquiry and proceed with the impeachment process. Okay, so Representative Maxine Waters said, I never changed my mind, she told reporters afterward. I never changed my mind. Now, while other chairmen said they were outraged by Trump's conduct, several offered reasons to follow Nancy Pelosi's lead. House Oversight and Reform Committee Chairman Elijah E. Cummings, Democrat from Maryland, for instance, warned that some freshman lawmakers in swing districts could lose races if Democrats are too aggressive in pursuing impeachment. Okay, no, you need to follow the damn process. No, you need to keep the investigations going. But he's unhinged, and he's saying he's not going to work with Democrats to get anything passed on behalf of the American citizens until the investigations stop. The investigations are lawful investigations that are following a paper trail, following a trail of corruption. So you have to start in the impeachment process to be a check on the president. You have to hold him accountable. If you don't hold impeachment hearings for this president, what happens when you have a future president that does things that are even worse? They're going to say, well, wait a second. Democrats didn't impeach Trump. Why are you trying to impeach me? So while other chairmen said they were outraged by Trump's conduct, several offered reasons to follow Nancy Pelosi's lead. So House Oversight and Reform Committee Chairman Elijah Cummings, Democrat from Maryland, for instance, warned that some freshman lawmakers in swing districts could lose races if Democrats are too aggressive in pursuing impeachment. Ahead of the meeting, Donald Trump aimed a barrage of early morning tweets at House Democrats questioning their priorities as they prepared to discuss investigations into the administration amid their growing calls for impeachment proceedings. The way Democrats have to frame this is that they're standing up for the U.S. Constitution, they're standing up for the rule of law, and no man is above the law. This is how they have to frame it. At the same time, keep having their hearings dealing with lowering drug prices, keep passing bills in the House that die in the Senate, because they have to do their job in the Senate. I mean, they have to do their job in the House. Keep dealing with healthcare, education, all of this. They had Betsy DeVos in front of one of the House committees, grilling her a couple weeks ago, something like that. Clueless Betsy DeVos, Secretary of Miseducation. They have to keep doing their job and start the impeachment process. And they have to say, we are standing up for the rule of law. We are standing up for the U.S. Constitution. We are doing our job, being a check on this president and doing oversight. Okay. Now, in his tweets, Trump claimed that the Democrats are, quote, getting zero work done in Congress, end quote, which is a lie. That's not true at all. And are instead focusing on what he called a continuation of a, quote unquote, witch hunt. Well, Mueller found some witches. Okay. If it was a witch hunt, Mueller found some witches. A witch hunt into whether he sought to obstruct special counsel Robert Mueller's third investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Yes, he did, directing Don McGahn to lie, directing Michael Cohen to lie about directing him to lie about the Trump Moscow project, all of that. If you look at this article from thinkprogress.org, Mueller detailed 10 times Trump acted to derail the Russia investigation and protect himself, okay? They lay this out. And we'll post the link here so you can, this is from thinkprogress.org. We'll post this link here so you can look at all of this, okay? Oh, it's too long. Okay, we'll put this in the thread of the broadcast because it's too long to, I'm limited to 200 characters here on YouTube in the live chat. Let's look at this quickly here. Okay. So Trump directly asked the FBI to let good guy Lieutenant General Michael Flynn get away with crimes. Trump made a direct request for then FBI Director James Comey to let Michael Flynn, at the time his national security advisor, off the hook for lying about his double dealing work on behalf of Russian interests while in Trump's service. Number two, Trump fired the FBI director and said he did it to sabotage the investigation. So he was fired on May 9th, FBI Director James Comey. On May 10th, Donald Trump met at the White House with Sergei Lavrov and also Russian ambassador at the time to the U.S., Sergei Kislyak. Nobody knew Sergei Kislyak was going to be there. There was no American media in the room, only one Russian media outlet. Why was this? And then at that meeting, Trump turns over classified information to the Russians. He declassified it himself. He did not consult with any of his security advisors or anything like this. Why is that? So Trump fired the FBI director and said he did it to sabotage the investigation. When Trump was interviewed by Lester Holt on NBC News on May 11th, 2017, 2 days after he fired Comey, he said he fired Comey because of the Russia thing. He said the Russian thing was a hoax, and he said he fired Comey because of this. That's what he was thinking about. Trump, quote, decided to fire Comey before hearing from the Department of Justice, end quote, about whether the then FBI leader should be terminated, Mueller report says. Investigators also determined the president personally inserted claims about the Mueller investigators' scope into the letter announcing Comey's termination, and that those claims be presented as having come from Comey himself. Trump also told Russian officials subsequently that he viewed the Comey firing as a release of the Mueller investigators, investigations, quote unquote, great pressure, the report says. He told the Russians, you know, I fired that nut, you know, he got the pressure off of him. 3, Trump manipulated his son's statement, Donald Trump Jr.'s statement about the 2016 Trump Tower meeting when they met with the Russians again. Why is it every time you look around the corner, it's some Russians? Mueller stated that there were over 140 contacts with Russians that the Trump campaign had. Why is it every time you look around, it's some more Russians? We look at the article from Yahoo News. Which one is this one? This deals with the Russian contacts also. Okay, I'll find that one. Let's see here. I just had that one. I think I put it with the State of Black America stuff dealing with the Russian interference in 2016 election. Okay, I'll find that. Because I just saw it, but I'll find that one. Okay. Let's continue here. We'll be here for a few more minutes, not to get out of here. All right. Trump pressured intelligence officials to interfere in the investigation as well. Trump repeatedly pushed then Attorney General Jeff Sessions to yank Mueller's chain, and they go on with some more. Okay, so check this out, thinkprogress.org. Mueller detailed 10 times Trump acted to derail the Russia investigation and protect himself. Okay, so this is clear obstruction of justice. This is clear obstruction of justice. Okay, let's go back to the article from Washington Post. Okay, so all right, I want to go to the one from New York Times. Tracking 29 investigations related to Trump. Let's see if it'll let me post this link here. Okay, yeah, that's from New York Times. Just posted that. And then you have 10 federal criminal investigations, 8 state and local investigations, 11 congressional investigations taking place right now. Okay. So if we look at the article from the New York Times that came out today about this also, this deals with Trump walks out on Pelosi and Schumer after 3 minutes, okay? This deals with that meeting and then what he did in the Rose Garden also, all right? So you can check that one out as well. Okay, and it basically covers a lot of the same information I just covered in the article from the Washington Post. We'll post this link here also for you. All right, let's look at some of your comments here. G. Watts, okay, let me see here. Google said Russian company spent $4,700 total on all platforms, and most were done after the election. No, that's not true. I don't know. You can't even tell me what source on Google that was, G. Watts. You really want to do some research. No, not at all. They spent $100,000. It was about 3,500 ads. Washington Post has an article dealing with this. If you look at the report that came out in December of 2018, also there were 2 reports, one from the Senate, and there was one from the research group that talked about this. So that's not true at all. And they're talking about ads during the election. Okay, so no, that's not true at all. You can look at the article from NBCnews.com from December 17, 2018. Russia favored Trump, targeted African Americans with election meddling, report says, and they lay out the information there. Let's see here. And it reached the ads on Facebook reached about 126 million people also. You can look at the articles from the Washington Post as well. It deals with this. Let's see here. So I don't know where you got that information from. That's false. So there were 2 studies that came out in 2 studies that came out in December. New York Times has an article, Russian 2016 influence operation targeted African Americans on social media. They look at the one from the U.S. Senate, and then also the one from the second report was written by the Computational Propaganda Project at Oxford University, along with Graphica. Okay, well, I'll post the link here to the article from NBC News, because there's no limit on how many articles you can read on from NBC News without having a digital subscription. I have digital subscriptions to the Washington Post and New York Times because I read so many of their articles on a daily basis. We report disinformation campaign. This is the one from Washington Post. It breaks down how they were using YouTube as well. Then we look at the articles I've talked about before from Washington Post. Russian Facebook ads showed a Black woman firing a rifle amid efforts to stoke racial strife. This is from October 2nd, 2017. The ad was among more than 3,000 Facebook ads delivered to congressional investigators. The company says were bought by 470 accounts and pages controlled by a Russian troll farm called the Internet Research Agency based in St. Petersburg. Go watch the video I did a few days ago dealing with the State of Black America Report 2019 and how it breaks down. The State of Black America Report 2019 deals with the Russian intervention into the 2016 election and how Russians targeted African Americans. Russia favored. Okay, so it helps when you know what you're talking about. Let's look at some more of your comments here. Also, the State of Black America Report, you can go to nationalurbanleague.org, nationalurbanleague.org, and read the State of Black America Report there also. Washington Post, you can read Washington Post, New York Times, you can read a number of different sources for it. All right. New York Times has a number of articles. You can go read the actual studies though. You don't just have to read the article, you can read the actual studies that are done. You can read the Mueller Report. The Mueller Report breaks it down also. So I don't know where you're getting your information from, G. Watts. Okay, who else we have here? Janet said all of the above got caught up because of the investigation on the Trump campaign. All right, Ariel, how you doing, Ariel? Matthew, you the people watching. All right, so share this information on your social media pages. Invite your friends to tune in also. You can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. We have a couple new advertisers also. Summer is coming and people want to get in shape. So the 28-day the Fast Life 28-day challenge is here to help. Okay, so this is a This is an online coaching program to help members tap into their body's natural ability to repair itself via fasting. In this challenge, they focus on utilizing fasting, whole foods, and movement to improve metabolic conditions such as obesity, high blood pressure, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, fatty liver, and more. So the Fast Life 28-day challenge will help you improve your health and look better after 28 days of a structured fasting regimen. It includes healthy habits and 3 coaches holding you accountable on a daily basis. Now they have it's a 4-week cohort, it's a 4-week group, and using 5 habits for 28 days. They have a new group starting up soon. Visit their website, tfl28.com, tfl28.com. For more information and to sign up, okay? That's for the Fast Life 28-day challenge. All right, now, also Dark Magentas, darkmagentas.com. Dark Magenta specializes in creating home spa products based on nature's healing and soothing properties. Dark Magenta carries essential oil and cannabidiol infused bath bombs, shower steamers, sugar scrubs, and soaps. They include oils and herbs such as lavender, rosemary, eucalyptus, sage, cedarwood, oatmeal, shea butter, alum, cannabidiol, and more. Okay. They also carry oil diffusers and 100% pure essential oils. Visit their website, darkmagentas.com, MAGENTAS, darkmagentas.com. We'll post the link here as well. Okay. darkmagentas.com. And let me pull up the article from, so African American business owners email us at customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com, customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com, okay? And we'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Our current promotion, get 3 months for the price of 1. And then also these broadcasts run on our YouTube channel as well, the African History Network on YouTube also. Okay, so, let me see if this comes up here. Russia. I thought I already had this one up, but it's not coming up. Here we go. Because I was just looking at this article, and then we look at the reporting from Richard Engel for NBC News that just came out, also dealing with, I think I already posted that link, but that deals with how the Russians were targeting African Americans, and they were being trained as well to engage in violence. I'll talk about that in just a minute here. So this link here I just posted: Russia favored Trump, targeted African Americans with election meddling report. Election meddling report says, this is from December 17, 2018. This is when those 2 studies came out. And some of the key findings from the new knowledge report. So they talk about the report coming from the US Senate. And let's see here. We talk about the 2 studies that came out. The one from New Knowledge found YouTube was used more extensively than previously known. The IRA, Internet Research Agency, began making YouTube videos in September of 2015, producing 1,107 videos across 17 channels. Okay. And let's see, the New Knowledge report, that was the one from the Senate Intelligence Committee, the US Senate Intelligence Committee, okay? Active and ongoing interference operations remain on several platforms, says the report produced by New Knowledge, a cybersecurity company based in Austin, Texas. along with researchers at Columbia University and Canfield Research LLC. One continuing Russian campaign, for instance, seeks to influence opinion on Syria by promoting Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president, and a Russian ally in the brutal conflict there. The new knowledge report, which was obtained by the New York Times in advance of its scheduled release on Monday, is one of two commissioned by the U.S. Senate Committee on a bipartisan basis. Okay, so we go back to the one from the NBC News that I just posted. Okay, so key findings. YouTube was used more extensively than previously known. The Internet Research Agency began making YouTube videos in September of 2015, producing 1,107 videos across 17 channels. A few channels were active until July 2017. The agency developed a collection of more than 3,840 persona accounts on Twitter. Okay, they have some fake accounts on YouTube. Some of them are on my timeline right now. Some of them are in the chat room right now. The agency developed a collection of more than 3,840 persona accounts on Twitter. Approximately 1.4 million people engaged with their tweets. They generated 72,801,807 engagements on their original content. The posts display a nuanced, quote, a nuanced and deep knowledge of American culture, media, and influencers in each community the Internet Research Agency targeted, okay? The Internet Research Agency impersonated state and local news media on Twitter and Instagram, setting up approximately 109 Twitter accounts masquerading as news organizations, including 44 US-focused Twitter handles that amassed 660,335 followers between them, with an average of 15,000 followers each. The accounts were bots, Russian bots, posting like to articles, many of which were bogus. The accounts were bots posting like to articles, many of which were bogus. The agency simultaneously worked hard to undermine trust in real news media, both among left and right-leaning audiences. There were dozens of posts extolling the virtues of WikiLeaks' Julian Assange, who has been arrested since then. Thousands of conspiratorial tweets were advanced or amplified by fake right-wing personas and included pseudoscience conspiracies about vaccines, paranormal activity and aliens, and anti-Semitic complaints about the globalist agenda. Now, this is from December. This is before the Mueller report came out. This was two studies that came out in December of 2018. The Russians sought to convey a narrative that the Mueller investigation was corrupt and that the emerging Russia stories were a, quote, weird conspiracy, end quote, pushed by liberal crybabies. This is the same thing Trump is saying. I wonder where he's getting this from. This is the same thing Trump is saying. Okay, keep in mind, this article came out December 2018. The Mueller report was not submitted until March 24th, 2019. Okay, so we posted this link here also. Read this full article. This is just an excerpt of it. Read the full article, okay? And then also read the one that just came out from NBC News. This deals with the story that came out, the story that just broke. Russian documents reveal desire to sow racial discord and violence in the U.S. Now, I first heard this reported on Tuesday, May 21st on MSNBC, okay, during the daytime, of course. So then I researched it and looked up the article. The revelations come as U.S. intelligence agencies have warned of probable Russian meddling in the 2020 election, okay? Russians who were linked to interference in the 2016 U.S. election discussed ambitious plans to stoke unrest and even violence inside the U.S. as recently as 2018, according to documents reviewed by NBC News. And what they were doing is the documents, which were communications between associates of a Russian oligarch named Prigozhin. What they were doing is that the documents laid out a new plot to manipulate and radicalize African Americans. The plans show that Prigozhin's circle has sought to exploit racial tensions well beyond Russia's social media and misinformation efforts tied to the 2016 election. One document said that Donald Trump's election had, quote, deepened conflicts in American society, end quote, and suggested that if successful, the influence project would, quote, undermine the country's territorial integrity and military and economic potential. The documents contain proposals for several ways to further exacerbate racial discord in the future, including a suggestion to recruit African Americans and transport them to camps in Africa, quote, for combat prep and training in sabotage, end quote. Those recruits would then be sent back to America to foment violence and work to establish a Pan-African state in the South, particularly in South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. Read this full article, okay? There's no indication that the plan, which is light on details, was ever put into action, but it offers a fresh example of the mindset around Russian efforts to sow discord in the US. The blueprint entitled, quote, Development Strategy of a Pan-African State on US Territory, end quote, floated the idea of enlisting poor, formerly incarcerated African Americans, quote, who have experience in organized crime groups, end quote, as well as members of, quote, radical Black movements for participation in civil disobedience actions, end quote. The goal was to, quote, destabilize the internal situation in the US, end quote. Now, why doesn't Trump ever say anything negatively about Vladimir Putin? Why didn't he denounce, when he was at Helsinki and he was standing next to Vladimir Putin on the stage, this is about June of 2018. He took Vladimir Putin's word that Putin had nothing to do with the Russian intervention in the 2016 election, and he didn't challenge. He's standing there right next to him. He didn't challenge him. He didn't denounce it. He didn't say don't do it again, anything like that. Why? All right, so everybody go back and watch this broadcast, share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, I-M-H-O-T-E-P. Click on the subscribe button. Also click on the bell so it notifies you when we go live. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All of my DVD lectures are there as well. That help support the African History Network. You can click on the yellow donate button on the home page of the website. Also, you can donate to the African History Network. You can set it up for a recurring donation also. Okay, listen to the African History Network show Sundays 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation in Detroit, and we broadcast on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. We post the videos here. So this past Sunday show, you know, we have it here. You can go back and watch that. All right, so look, here to get out of here. Oh, so let's see. Where will I be? African Liberation Day at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, Saturday, May 25th. I'll be a vendor there. That's 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Visit theright.org, W-R-I-G-H-T, theright.org for more information about that. And then I will be in Inkster, Michigan for their Memorial Day Parade, Monday, May 27th. We'll do our show live Sunday, May 26th. And I'll be in Atlanta for the Juneteenth celebration, the big Juneteenth celebration, June 14th through the 16th. I'll be speaking there. I have to get the details. I'll be a vendor also. I'll be back in Atlanta the third weekend in July for the Black Homeschooling Conference, the Liberated Minds Black Homeschooling Education Expo. So we'll get all those flyers up on our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. So you can come on out and see me. We'll have our vendor tables there. You can come out, meet me, talk to me also. If you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, email me at customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay. All right. We have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.